Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dylan Lusk with the National Weather Service here in Peachtree City, Atlanta, and this will be your weekly weather briefing for the week starting May 1st, 2025. Diving into things a little bit here, we'll start with the weekly summary. So this will go from today, which is Thursday, May 1st, through Wednesday, May 7th of next week. To end the week here, I should say, we're going to have a couple of days of thunderstorms as we're going to have a system that's going to approach from the west and going to kind of stall out over the area Friday, Saturday, and maybe even into Sunday. That is going to bring us the chance for some very isolated severe weather. We do have a marginal risk for severe weather across North Georgia today, as well as Friday and into Saturday. On Saturday, that risk is actually going to extend all the way into North and Central Georgia. I should say for today specifically, we do have a small area that is literally just up in Dade County for the most part that is in a slight risk. So there is a little bit more of an extension of that risk up there, but we'll talk about that here in just a second. This marginal risk is mainly for some isolated chances of either some severe wind gusts or some marginally large hail that could get up to the size of quarters, but these should be very isolated overall, hence just the level 1 out of 5 risk. As we go into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and into next week, we should start to see those rain chances come down a little bit as a front approaches and potentially even clears the area. This will also help bring our temperatures down a little bit going into next week, and we'll have things be a little more spring-like. But there is a little bit of uncertainty around that front that we'll talk about here in a second. So our current conditions out there, I've got satellite from about an hour ago, and then the current radar from just a little bit ago. What you can see here is we do have some storms that have already started to develop basically across the border in Alabama. Those should be pushing to the east/northeast. We'd expect those to potentially arrive in portions of northwest Georgia a little bit later this afternoon. They should hold together. This is going to be kind of the first little bit of the potential threat today for some severe weather. These storms are going to be capable of producing an isolated damaging wind gust and maybe some isolated large hail as they do push into the area. Looking at your rain chances overall for today and tonight, you can see we're highlighting that area up in North Georgia where those thunderstorms may potentially push in. For tonight, we could potentially see some storms linger around the area, as well as more storms to the west that form and kind of push in, and that would include pushing all the way down into the Atlanta metro, as well as portions of the area that are to the south of the Atlanta metro. So another chance of rain again tonight, and you're going to see that's going to be a bit of a theme through this for the next several days. So here's our severe weather outlook. As I stated earlier, we are in a marginal risk. That's a level 1 out of 5 risk for today for most of North Georgia. However, we do have that little sliver of a slight risk. That's your level 2 out of 5 risk that basically crosses right through Dade County up there. That's basically for the potential for some a line of storms that could push into the area, that either a line, I should say a line or a broken line of storms that could push into the area later tonight. Wind is our primary concern with any of these storms that do form. We could get some damaging wind gusts that could potentially bring a couple of trees down and stuff like that. Otherwise, we can't rule out that there could be some hail up to the size of quarters, but we're definitely a little bit more concerned today about the potential for damaging winds than we would be for that large hail. And even with the damaging winds, for the most part, that should be an isolated threat. Not every storm is going to be capable of doing that, only the strongest of storms that do form. Going into tomorrow on Friday, rain chances are going to pick up. We're going to see that weather system basically approach the area from the northwest, and with that there's going to be an uptick in our rain chances as a result, and that's going to continue through the day tomorrow and into the afternoon and even into the overnight hours, where again we could potentially see in the overnight hours another line of thunderstorms approach the area. Right now, we are under a marginal risk. That's a level 1 out of 5 risk. And again, we could see afternoon storms that could get severe, and then we could have a broken line that moves into the area from the northwest. I'll go ahead and say there's still uncertainty about how things will go tomorrow, in large part because we don't entirely know how the thunderstorms are going to evolve today. So you could see some changes, especially with the extent of this risk area going into tomorrow. Either way, the main threat with any storms that do form are going to be, again, the potential for some isolated damaging wind gusts. We can't rule out that maybe one of the strongest storms could produce some large hail up to the size of quarters. Going into Saturday, rain chances increase even further. It looks now like we're going to have a front that's going to stall just to the north of the area, and we'll have a lot of moisture that's going to be in place across north and central Georgia as a result of that. And so we could get some decent rainfall. We could see some thunderstorms with this, and those storms could continue into the overnight hours on Saturday into early Sunday morning. Again, it's kind of I sound a bit like a broken record with this, but we have a marginal risk level 1 out of 5 in place. It's the same threats once again. We're concerned about isolated damaging wind gusts with the strongest storms that do form, and we can't rule out that you could get an instance of 2 of some hail that gets up to the size of quarters with these storms that do form. All right, going into Sunday, our rain chances do finally start to decrease. It does look like that the front that I was talking about earlier should start to slide in and maybe even slide through the area on Sunday, but there is some uncertainty about how quickly that may happen. If that front is further to the north, that means our rain chances will be a little bit higher. If our front is further to the south, that means our rain chances would actually end up being a little bit lower. And so what you see here with these chances of precipitation does kind of take that uncertainty into account. If we get more confident that that front might be a little bit slower, I would suspect that you might see these rain chances come up a little bit. If we're confident that it's going to slide through the area a little faster, you might see these rain chances come down a little bit. This also goes for Monday and into Tuesday to an extent. In essence, we're going to have a weather system that's going to form called a cutoff low, and basically this is just a low pressure system that kind of gets detached from the main jet stream to our north, and these systems tend to kind of just sit and linger. Where exactly that low ends up cutting off is going to have pretty big impacts for just how much rain or thunderstorm chances we might see Monday into Tuesday. Right now, the thinking is that it's going to be a little bit further to our east, and if that situation plays out, it's probably going to be drier than it would be wetter, so to speak. But if that low is a little bit further to the west when it does so, which some models do indicate the possibility of, you could see these rain chances go up a little bit compared to what we're showing here. But if the scenario plays out right now that we are expecting, where it is a little bit further to our east, you can see rain chances lower a good bit on Monday, and on Tuesday we actually may see pretty dry conditions across the area. All right, here's the precipitation amounts expected with all this. In North Georgia, where you potentially are going to have several rounds and several days worth of thunderstorms and precipitation, you can see anywhere from a half an inch up to about an inch and a half. Some isolated higher amounts will certainly be possible with that, especially in places that see thunderstorms form, and especially in places that see multiple rounds of thunderstorms move over them. Otherwise, as we get down into central Georgia, you could see anywhere from a tenth of an inch to about an inch. And again, this is going to be highly dependent on whether or not you see an afternoon thunderstorm or something like that. This transitions nicely into our current drought outlook, which was updated this week. Recent rainfalls across the area, this has actually allowed us to see some improvement to the drought conditions, and honestly, the rain that we're potentially going to see this week across the north will potentially eradicate a good bit of any of those little patches that you see up there that are left. For the most part in the state, any drought conditions that are left seem to be confined to mostly eastern Georgia and southern Georgia. So last, we'll finish up with the temperature forecast. It's been a little bit warmer than normal over the past couple of days, a couple of degrees warmer than normal. That trend is going to somewhat continue, with the caveat of places that get rain and thunderstorms may be a little bit cooler than the current high forecast would suggest. That goes for today and tomorrow. As we go into Saturday and Sunday, I talked about we could potentially have a cold front that's going to start sliding into the area. This will bring some cooler air down. You can see we actually return to much more seasonable temperatures for spring. We'll have highs that are going to be in the 70s in the north and in the 80s, I should say low to mid 80s in central Georgia, which is much more typical for, say, early May than having 80s and almost 90s across the entire area. And that cool air lingers Monday into Tuesday with that, as I talked about, that little cutoff flow potential. Regardless of where it forms, this is likely going to be the case that we'll see this kind of cooler air stick around into the area Monday into Tuesday. So here's just summarizing things up again. Um, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so today, tomorrow, and Saturday, these are going to be the days that we have the very marginal risk for some severe weather. Could see an isolated damaging wind gust. Can't rule out seeing a storm or two produce some damaging hail up to the size of a quarter. And then after that, we have a little bit of uncertainty as to how much thunderstorms may stick around Sunday into Monday and the beginning of next week, but we're pretty confident that we're going to see more spring-like temperatures come into the area. And that's it. That's all we've got for this week. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us by any of the contacts that you see here. And have a great week, everyone.